Hello and welcome to I Talk to Ghosts. I'm your haunted host, Jennifer, a spirit medium and a teller of ghost stories. And dear listener, I'm so glad you're here to share this episode with me because this is the podcast's 100th episode. And looking back on it, I completely love how this show has helped me craft my storytelling, as well as challenged me to put myself out there as a medium. And I love that I can share it all with you, the spooky and the unexplainable stories, as well as the deep personal medium readings that come through with talking with my guests every week. So whether you're new to the podcast or have been listening from the beginning, thank you so much for sharing this with me. And the stories I'll be sharing with you this week are ghostly encounters that happen during paranormal investigations. And I plan on sharing a few EVPs that were captured during those investigations, as well as the chills. I plan on sharing my own personal experience that I had as the medium during a ghost hunt. Also, join me for a new in-studio spirit reading with my podcast guest. You will not want to miss this session. So many different people and animal spirits came through for my sitter. And then join me at my seance table for a message from the spirits that could be specifically for you since you're listening to the podcast. Thank you so much again for sharing this episode with me, for sharing the podcast with me, and this whole spooky and spiritual journey. I couldn't do it without you, and you make the whole experience all the more richer. So enjoy the episode, and let's get to the spooky. This experience was shared by Bobbie. If you have a story you would like to share, please email me at speaknow@italktoghosts.com. Thank you, Bobbie, for your story. I have a ranch home that's rather small, about 1,300 square feet, with crazy paranormal activity over the years. And I've been fascinated and an amateur paranormal investigator for over 20 years and have been involved with a few paranormal groups. I want to tell you about an investigation that was performed in my house. Strange occurrences led to this investigation, including my youngest child would tell me he was woken up by chickens running up and down the hall. There were shadow figures, lights would be on throughout the house when we would get home, and kitchen cabinets would open on their own. I found a group on Facebook that did investigations and became acquainted with a man named Joe who had some connections with South Jersey Ghost Research. I contacted the group, and a retired detective contacted me with questions. He made arrangements to have some people come with him to visit my home, even though it took them over 2 hours to get to me. They did a walkthrough and decided to come back with a team to do a full investigation. They came to investigate during the summer of 2015. During the investigation, the team set up audio recording equipment to perhaps capture electronic voice phenomenon, or EVPs. They recorded a disembodied voice of a woman whispering. Fortunately, they felt there was nothing really harmful in the home, which was great because when I first moved in, there had been a pentagram painted on our basement floor. Speaking of the basement, the one EVP captured down there was someone, I believe male, saying the name Ivan. At first, the group thought it was saying Hiya, but when you really listen, it's Ivan. I had no clue at this point who that might be. After this investigation, stuff still went on. Sounds like glass shattering, stuff being moved, shadows, people talking. In July of 2021, I invited another paranormal team to come and investigate. The team came, and it was a typical spooky night with dark gray skies and heavy thunderstorms, the perfect atmosphere for hunting ghosts. One investigator, Nicole, recorded for EVPs, and what we caught was kind of crazy. On tape was a recording of a little girl singing. She had also been seen that night as well. And the kicker? There was a man saying the name Ivan again. Same voice, same name, years apart. If you think that's unbelievable, well, I had been having issues with my neighbor over use of property next to me. The old owner of the neighbor's house told me to go back and pull her father's old deed showing the property line, and I did. And for some reason, I went back to another deed. I asked if they knew what my property was before the house was built, and get this, it was a tomato and chicken farm. Remember how my young son claimed to see and hear chickens running down our hallway? Ghost chickens. And guess who owned the property? A woman named Iva. She sold the property in April of 1949 to my friend's parents. So the name in the EVPs isn't Ivan, it's Iva. I have the deed with her name on it. So who is in my basement? Are they asking for Iva? Activity continued in the house, and it got a little out of hand. I'd be happy to share details of that activity and other stories for you. I had my house cleansed in February of 2022 by a very gifted person. We recorded this session as someone did leave. But before he did, he scratched her back and left marks across it. I think this was a nasty person. I still have some activity and someone is still in the basement, just not chasing me up the stairs since the cleansing. I did do an EVP session a few months ago and asked if they wanted to speak with me. The reply was, maybe. And the haunting continues. My girlfriend in college had shared with me stories of odd things that were occurring in her dorm room. I was really curious about doing a little ghost hunting in her room, but I was concerned that if I did, it would ramp up the activity and perhaps make things worse for her and her roommate. So one night, when my girlfriend was busy, her roommate and I decided to go ghost hunting on the top floor of her building. Now, I didn't know what I was doing. I was just going off what I had seen on television and read online. In truth, I'm also an atheist and unsure of what to make of ghosts and spirits. We began by walking around the floor, and we came across a study room. As soon as we walked in, we both immediately looked at each other, as we both had felt an odd sensation down the back of our necks and spine. That chilled, tingling, adrenaline feeling, if you know what I mean. I started to ask questions. The old, if there's a spirit with us, please give us a sign, a knock, turning off the light, etc. We stood there for about 30 seconds and nothing happened, so we left. We asked the same questions up and down the hall with no response. And eventually, we returned to the study room again. As soon as we walked in, we felt the same sensation down our backs. I walked over to the window on the other side of the room, and my friend asked me if the room was hazy to me. I said, "No, what do you mean?" She described to me as she saw it. The air in the room was filled with a white, foggy haze. I was utterly bamboozled, and I walked over to her to make sure she was okay. She told me that as soon as I walked away from the window and back towards her, the haze had vanished. I walked back to the window, and it returned for her. And this happened every time I went to the window or to her, respectively. I thought this would be my best chance to encounter a spirit, so I said, "If there's a spirit in this room with us, please give us a sign. Please knock, turn off a light, move an object." I looked at my friend, and we maintained eye contact for a few seconds, then looked around the room for a few more. Then we heard a faint rapping sound on the door. My friend looked at me and asked if I heard it, and of course I did. We decided it was time to leave. We were 3 steps out into the hallway, and we heard a big booming noise, followed by rumbling, like thunder. But the weather was perfect outside. It wasn't too hot, it wasn't too cold, and the entire state had been forecasted to have great weather that day. It was lovely outside. The pipes had never been that loud or sounded like that, and there were no dorm rooms close enough for anyone to simply be messing with us. So that's my story of ghost hunting at my girlfriend's dormitory. Do you have a personal ghost story to tell? Come join me on my podcast. Tell me your unexplainable, spooky experience, and we'll record it together to share on a future episode. Visit italktoghosts.com/contact for more details. I can't wait to hear your story. Hello and welcome back to I Talk to Ghosts. My guest this evening is Shanti. Shanti, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to this.
I know, it's a long time coming. We met at the Oregon Ghost Conference this year across the aisle, and you're almost my volunteer for the live show, and then, and all that. And so I'm really glad that we're finally getting to do this reading for you. And thank you for your patience with it.
Absolutely.
Okay. First things coming in, I want to say a couple of things. When I open up the space, there's a man, feels like a grandfather, father type figure. Does this make sense to you?
Mm-hmm.
And then it gets really loud. I don't do a lot of animal readings. I have done a couple in the past. And someone that I read for, Allison, she worked with animals, I believe. And then another person I did a reading for, she was like a dog walker. I'm wondering, do you work with animals?
A lot. My entire life is submerged in animals. Everything I do is animals.
Okay. When there's a lot, it's almost like trying to find a single voice in a shopping mall. You know what I mean? So it's a little hard to single in, but the overall energy that is coming in is that of comfort for you and acknowledgement of what you do. There's a sentiment of regrets for slipping away and a sense of a foundational loss there that is a comfort to you. Can you connect this?
Yeah, there's actually several.
Okay.
So a couple weeks ago, we had to put down my older dog. It was just time, and it was a beautiful send-off, and it was a very peaceful, planned togetherness with the family, and it was a beautiful send-off, but she was my foundational dog for like my first adult life dog. My heart horse who was my first horse that I had as an adult. I did not get to have very long because of undisclosed health problems that was hidden from me, and we ended up having to euthanize her far earlier than needed. And my favorite snake that I had for a long time, she was blind in one eye. Penelope, she was another snake that I had died during a tragedy we had during the pandemic. So all three of those animals were like heart soulmate animals, and all three of those I was actually curious if they would come through on this.
Yeah. It's funny because the first thing I felt was dog. And then I'm like, but I wonder, horses seem to be a big deal. And then I definitely got snake, which is
That's
really,
funny.
really interesting because normally I don't see all of them. I'm like, okay, there is this variety here. And have you also worked with birds?
Yes. Yeah, we had quite a variety of birds that I've taken care of in the past. Most of the time they weren't mine. The birds that I had were like pigeons and chickens and stuff, but I've taken care of a lot of parrots and things like that before.
Well, let me see if your doggo can come close and share a little. Yeah, the love is definitely there. Just love, 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 love type of dog. You know,
Yes.
affectionate. Did he have to have a lot of care?
She had some back problems that we did a lot of laser treatment and stuff for, and we had to really basically kid-proof the house for her to make sure she didn't have access to the stairs or anything. And she had a lot of allergies, so she was on chronic allergy pills for her whole life.
Okay. What a giving animal, because the way she's expressing it is she feels bad that money had to be spent on her. You know, she's just so giving.
Aww.
And that's why I'm asking about the medical care, because I think, you know, I don't know how much animals on this plane, while here with us, understand material concepts and money, but in the spirit world, we're so expansive, and they can express anything they want to, and they're like, wow, the amount of care and finance that you are willing to aid her with. It's like, oh, it makes her heart swell, and she wants to thank you for that. And also she has the type of personality, it's like, oh, I feel so bad about it a little bit.
She definitely would show the guilty face whenever she did something that was like, you know, you're not supposed to. She definitely gave the guilty face. She knew.
Oh, and she's also expressing how she's like, if she could take any kind of worry away for you, she would.
So she was my emotional service dog. So she definitely provided that a lot.
She doesn't want to see you bound up, you know, and just kind of chained by anxiety or anything like that. And from her point of view, she's like, oh, if I could just pour this love and expansiveness into you, that's what she wants to do. And I want to say that if you ever feel like you still need her in that role, open up the space for her, and she will come in. She will absolutely come in for you.
I will definitely be doing that.
Yeah. Let those emotions flood in, because she is so there for you. Oh, what a sweetie. What an absolute sweetie.
My kids keep telling me now that we can leave doors open. They'll be like, Mom, we can leave the doors open and her ghost can come down the stairs with us now. And I'm like, oh. So they've been all like super excited. Like, it's kind of like she's still here, but we don't have to worry now. So they've been super open to feeling it when she's there too.
That is incredibly sweet. Let me give you some choices. Who would you like to hear from next?
I didn't have anyone in particular outside of the animals, but I know you had said you mentioned a man's energy, but I'm totally open to whoever's willing to talk. Never done this before, so kind of whoever wants to come forward and share is kind of what I was hoping.
Okay. He is feeling very quiet, which is why I was like, okay, I know you're here. What he expresses to me was that he was really affected by the real world. External things
would very much influence him, and not always in good ways. And a lot of times he had this, I don't know if you know this or not, he had a little bit of a dreamer personality, and when the world comes crashing in, it just it made him sullen, it made him moody, it made him not be able to pull out of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I'm almost 100% sure I know who you're talking about. That'd be my dad, my biological dad.
Yeah, I said father, grandfather. So you mentioned you have kids, so obviously he is a grandfather too. Yeah, he's being very quiet and a little hesitant, kind of like, I want you to know I'm here,
Mm-hmm.
but I also want to kind of explain myself a little bit.
Yeah, we definitely had a tumultuous relationship.
Yeah, and he idealized a lot of things, is what he's saying, and when it didn't fit that mold, it really upset him. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. You're very good at wording things very nicely.
Thank you. And that's part of it, right? You have to approach things delicately, and
yeah.
He's saying he wishes he had better control. He couldn't control himself.
Yeah.
And there's definitely he says, I don't even want to ask for forgiveness, but know that, because he doesn't want to ask that of you, but if you could understand why he was the way he was a little bit, maybe at least it could soften it for you, and just knows that he wishes it could have been mended.
I actually really did too, and for a long time I was really frustrated with the way it ended, but I just kind of had resolved to the fact that it wasn't going to be resolved. So this is nice to hear that he does have regrets about that.
I think we gain perspective when we pass on. We retain everything, but there's this clarity.
Yeah.
And our ego kind of falls away, where it's no longer a matter of pride, or those issues really don't exist, but you're aware of them.
Yeah.
And anything we can do to kind of offer healing to those still here, still experiencing, still remembering, I think it's just really valuable.
Absolutely.
So know that he is there for that. Some imagery that I was being shared. Do you know if he ever had like a bomber jacket or something like that? And I was kind of smelling leather.
Yeah, he loved leather. He had a lot of leather jackets. He also used to be a boxer, so he had leather boxing gloves and stuff like that.
And also a pocket knife?
I wouldn't know about a specific knife, but he did have a lot of machetes and stuff from when he had come over from India. So.
Oh, geez. Maybe he was just gently showing me any kind of knife to symbolize knives.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm seeing a lot of like forest imagery. Did he take solace with the woods or have an affinity for the woods?
He liked to have us, we usually lived in pretty rural places. He wanted us homeschooled and pretty isolated from the world. He also used to build us tree houses and little places to escape to. Most of the places we lived are very wooded and out in the middle of nowhere. So those were all usually by choice to keep us away from the terrors of the world.
The terrors of the world. Yeah, the theme of isolation really does seem to come up.
Very much.
Yeah, he had a lot of worries, and it kept him up at night.
Yeah.
And it spun him around and around and around and around and around. Okay. Yeah. I mean, oh gosh. Okay, he's admitting he was his own worst enemy, and he made it that way because he wasn't controlling. He didn't have the self-awareness to
like regulate himself.
Yeah. It's almost like he couldn't see how he was. He just was. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely makes sense.
He says when he was younger, he was much more imaginative and idealized things. And he wishes that you could have seen that side of him before life happened.
Yeah, he was a lot older than my mom when they met, so he was very much mid to adult life when we were born. And he, as well as my grandma, American dream, when they immigrated here from India, they had a lot of ideas of what it was going to be like, and it was not. So I definitely see how the world was a letdown and had damaged what the ideals should have been for getting here and what it was supposed to have looked like versus what it did end up looking like.
I certainly want to leave you with his acknowledgments and apologies and honestly his love for you. He doesn't think there's anything you can't do, and he admires your imagination with things. And it's almost like he's passing along the sentiment of protect that, keep that safe, and share it with others, which probably doesn't sound a lot like him in life, but he can give that to you now.
Yeah, I definitely could. I knew he loved us. He was just very bad at expressing it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was almost like he was so absorbed by his own mental health issues that he couldn't express anything that would have been helpful to us as children. It was just existing with him.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad he's able to express that now, and I accept that now because I'm old enough and have kids now that I can see that. But it's definitely, I'm kind of surprised he came forward, but I'm glad he did.
It was an important little piece to put into that puzzle,
Absolutely.
Thread that into your tapestry, and I think that's why he was kind of being a little quiet too, because there are other energies that also want to express things to you, and he definitely wanted to say, hey, I'm here, but I know there's others, and that's very important too. And
that definitely seems like him.
Yeah. Okay. Who else would you like to reach out to? Normally, I don't ask this much, but just because there seems like there's so much that it's like I could use help pinpointing.
I had a friend do some Reiki one time, and she said she felt my grandmother's energy, which would have been my dad's mom. So I was curious if she was around. My horse that I spoke about, my snake too, but those were kind of the initial ones that came to mind were my animals first, because I didn't think that the human spirits would have much to say to me. But if she's around, I was curious.
Sure. It's funny because, I opened up the space and the first thing I go searching for is people. And then I'm like, when I turned off my mind a little bit, that's when I realized I'm like, oh no, there's a lot here. And I'm so glad it could snag my subconsciousness. And because then it all kind of made sense as to why the people were kind of quiet as well. But I am picking up on an older woman, and she is kind of, I kind of asked about like her life and who she is, and she was bringing up themes of friendship. I almost wondered if you might have lost a coworker or teacher, someone in that capacity, that arena of things.
Yeah, the person that just came to mind, she passed away last year. She used to do a lot of pit bull dog rescue stuff with me.
Okay.
And she passed away from cancer. And she was like grandma / auntie to my dog that passed away, and she had known us the whole time. So she was always very attentive to the dogs when she'd come visit. She was very, very in tune with all the dogs and stuff. I know her biggest sadness was leaving her dogs and her husband behind, but the dogs were like, those are her babies. So that was kind of who initially I thought of when you said that.
Yeah, exactly. Because it feels like coworker, a lot of warmth and comfort with her as well, and friendship. And She was very knowledgeable, the type of person who would share her knowledge. I could see her teaching and training others about what she knows,
Yep.
as well as teaching and helping animals what
Yep.
she knows. You know, she wants you to know that she considers you a healer.
Oh,
I don't know if you've ever been called to do energy healing work, but she sees that in you.
I have not, but I will definitely take whatever teaching and guidance I can find then.
Your horse is saying how you made them feel safe. They had a very curious nature, and then that kind of, it feels like that was restricted in some way. And then with you, they felt very playful, that they could be that way. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It's a weird way to express it. Like you made them feel young again.
Oh,
I think you gave energy back to them, and that in that safety, there was this sense of kind of adventure and curiosity and playfulness. Did she used to mess with you a little bit?
yeah. When we had first met, she was very her personality did not come out. She was very quiet. She kept to herself. You'd ride her and she'd listen and she'd do what she was told, but she didn't express any type of opinion one way or another. And if she made the choice, she wouldn't choose human attention. She would go choose the horses over people. And then when I got her and we started going places all the time and doing things, and then she was like super excited. She loved doing mounted archery. Like that was her thing. It clicked with her and she loved it. So she'd run and do it happily. I never had to fight her about it. She enjoyed it. A lot of our activities we did, she was just like, oh, all right. And she didn't question it. She didn't balk at it. She'd just go and do it with me, and she never questioned it. And she got really excited and would start looking forward to it and anticipating it, which was really nice because she had before been so dull and almost lifeless the way she like behaved. She didn't seem like she was super excited about anything, and then she all of a sudden was. So it was very, very, very enjoyable seeing her bloom in personality.
Oh, it sounds like you were just kindred spirits.
That's why I call her my heart horse. Like if we could have been a centaur, I feel like we could have been attached.
It feels like such a powerful relationship too, that imagery is just the momentum of it. And yeah, like warrior, you know?
100%. She made me feel so strong and forward and able to battle things. And when I lost her, it was like I was not ready. It was too soon. And she was still in the prime of her life. So it was really hard.
I'm so sorry about that. That's really difficult.
Yeah.
But know that she's still here too, you know? She's talking to me, talking to you, connecting with you. I don't think she'd visit me if it weren't for you. So
yeah, that would be her way, off on her own.
But did she ever, like, you put something down and she'd move it or something like that? I'm getting this sense of kind of messing with you a little bit, like just this little joke.
She would like move things around. Like whenever I put her hay bags up, she'd toss the hay bags around and stuff instead of leaving them where they're supposed to be. But
yeah, that's it. She thought it was hilarious.
I thought it was just in the wrong spot and she didn't like it there, so she'd move it.
No, she was like, you put it down, I'm going to move it. And it was funny. Just kind of this little joke with her.
Funny.
I do have a couple messages for you that I want to share from the collective, okay? And let me see. Okay, so here we go. Be open to inspiration to guide your spirituality and your purpose. Just if we open wide, we can be inspired. We'll notice things, you know, we'll notice signs, we'll notice suggestions, things resonate with us when we're open to it. Because if we're just like doing our routine, we might not see it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So be open to inspiration to guide your spirituality and your purpose. keep moving forward. And the encouragement is you will be able to navigate any challenge, because you have. Any challenge you've ever faced, you've been able to manage and get through it and emerge from it, and never let past experiences hinder you from the future, because you did it. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for this.
Thank you.
It is always, you're welcome. It is always such a treat to work with all kinds of different energies and see how they come through and how they convey what they want to say, what their personality was, or what their emotions. And it's just really fascinating to me. And I feel really honored to be able to navigate and present all of this for you, because it's really, really special.
Thank you. I so appreciate it. It's been wonderful getting to hear from all these different characters and people, and some people that I didn't expect to. And I was definitely expecting the animals, not so much the people. So it's kind of nice.
Yeah, exactly. Well, before we go, do you have a personal ghost story you would like to share?
Yeah, I got at least 2.
Listener ghost story.
Our house is pretty haunted. It's all pretty benign and nothing scary, but lots of activity, lots of noise. My last name is Kane, and so we have these big wooden letters in our front window. And we went on a weekend vacation and came back, and they were rearranged. Instead of being CAIN, they were I can. And we've had the clocks moved off the wall. We've had furniture sound like it's crashing, like a bookshelf, and then nothing's changed or moved. We've had lots of knocking on doors. We'll check all the Ring cameras. There's no one there, but you can hear the dogs. They hear it and they bark and they hear it. So the cameras pick up the dogs barking and listening to the knocking, but there's no one there knocking. So our house is pretty active. The ghost story per se that I wanted to share, we were doing a ghost hunt at the ghost conference this year on the coast. We went to the Mason's Lodge, and this was the first time they had opened it up to people. And there was a spirit who we caught on one of the SLS cameras leaning over my husband's chair, and it looked like he was breathing on him, and he had felt breath on the back of his neck. And I was like, ooh, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. And I didn't tell anybody because I didn't want to freak anybody out. So after my husband had been in the hot seat and asking questions and feeling that, he came back, and I went out and I sat there, and I very confrontationally said, why are you messing with my husband and touching him? And I this very strong grip grabbed the back of my neck and just squeezed, clamped down on the back of my neck super hard. And it physically hurt all through Sunday at the ghost conference the next day. So I just sat with my hands protecting my neck for the rest of the sitting session where I was asking questions. And anytime I asked the spirit questions, he wouldn't answer me through my ovilus. He would answer through other people's oviluses across the room. And he'd flick on flashlights on the other end or ring the bells in a different part of the room to answer my questions. He would never directly answer me on my machinery. And my only thought was, it's a Mason's Lodge. Women's aren't supposed to be here. So he probably is very hateful or dislikes the fact that I'm here, and that how dare I question him for talking or being close to my husband. So it felt very malicious and very chauvinistic, and not like he liked me. So it was it was the first scary physical touch experience versus like, oh, there's someone here. I kind of feel something. It was a very much, why are you here? Why are you talking to me? Like very angry feeling spirit. So it was definitely an interesting experience to go there. It's a first time, but it was very active at that location.
Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah.
and you're right. When you said you felt it on the back of your neck, it almost, the energy I'm feeling is like, I want to show you the door.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah. He was like, you can leave now.
And it's like, you don't take people by the scruff, and try to like control and force them out. Wow. Powerful energy there. What an experience, that sounds terrifying to me.
It did take me off guard.
Yeah. I thought about doing one of the ghost tours myself, and when I think about the Mason Lodge, yeah, you can't help but think like, as a woman, I'm not sure.
Yeah. And a couple other sensitives had gone, and they had noted different weird disembodied figures along the ceiling and other weird creepy things. But I'm like, I tried to not hear anyone else's stories because I wanted to what happened to happen and feel it.
Yeah.
And so we did the Estes method, which is where it's like sensory deprivation. So you're blindfolded and you have earplugs in, so you can't hear anything but the spirit box is like in your hands. And they said that most of the words coming through that I was sharing out loud were very spot on. It was very logical. It was answering other people's questions, and it was constant. And when someone would ask, like, why aren't you touching this or something, they're like, why don't you? And it would be very aggressive and very confrontational responses. So everything made sense with the energy as well as the wordage we were getting back. So I was like, okay. And I had a few people ask me, because I was the most vocal with the Estes method, they thought maybe I was just more sensitive to picking stuff up, or if maybe it's because I was a female, I was picking up more versus the men who maybe were just accepted in being there, versus someone felt more hostile towards our energy and wanted to make sure we knew that they were there, type thing. So it was very, very interesting experience.
Yeah. Well, if you have an active house, someone in your household is a ghost magnet, is a ghost antenna, and it could very well be you. And to have those kind of attention, like the attention is on you kind of experiences, it's like there's certainly something there, good or bad attention. You're going to get the attention.
I don't know, and I don't know who it is, because my children have heard voices and things talking to them. My husband has woken up to the knocking because we thought it was police. It was pounding on the door so loud. But we both will hear it in different parts of the houses. And I'm like, no, it was the front door. He's like, no, it was the back door. So we're like, well, maybe whatever it is trying to split us up. I don't like that even more. It hasn't felt negative at our house, but it's also been very audibly active. It's not like things don't move constantly, but it's definitely more noise than movement and stuff. So I'm like, maybe it's just letting us know it's here, because it doesn't feel malicious. Nothing ever feels like you're being watched, and nothing's scary, but there's a lot of activity. The Mason's Lodge felt very like it could get physical or poltergeisty, or something could get thrown across the room. Like it felt very palpable and angry. So it was very different feeling energy. So I'm not sure who here in our house makes it feel so comfortable coming forward, but it's definitely it's not a scary energy here. So I'm okay with that, y'all. We can coexist.
And you can always set house rules too, like please don't wake us up at night.
The only rule I had said jokingly out loud was, don't lose my keys. I don't want to be late to work or take the kids late to work to school. And I jokingly said that, and they've never touched my keys. Everything else has kind of gotten touched and moved, but nothing else.
That is a good rule, definitely. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much for this conversation and these experiences. We've shared so much, and I have enjoyed every moment of it.
Me too. Thank you so much for sharing and giving me some closure on certain things, and just letting me know my animals are still there. And all of it was very, very good. I really appreciate it. It was good for my heart.
That means everything to me. Yeah.
Would you like a free spirit reading with me and record your reading for the podcast? Sign up for your chance to be selected by visiting italktoghosts.com/guest. And as an added bonus, if you don't want to leave your reading up to chance, I'll let you in on a secret. There's a discount offer to book a private session with me, so you can book a date and time for certain. Visit italktoghosts.com/guest for more details. Hello and welcome back to I Talk to Ghosts. I have a message from the spirits this evening for someone listening to the podcast. So thank you for joining me at my seance table in the candlelight. Tonight, as I call a spirit close, I'm going to be working with yarrow. If you're not familiar with the herb yarrow, yarrow is very wonderful for drawing in vibrations of love, protection, as well as boosting your psychic abilities. So keep Yarrow close if you're interested in cultivating any of those aspects. Tonight I have with me a gentleman. He has a feeling about him of brother-uncle energy. I feel like this is your uncle. And how you would know him is, I love the fact that I have a lot of spirits who come close with a really good sense of humor. And this man feels like he always had a smile on his face. He was always laughing. He was always not taking life too seriously. And how you would know him is he's showing me his property. He had a lot of outdoor vehicles, trikes, big wheels even, bikes, dirt bikes, four-wheelers that had a little trailer on it, so it kind of felt like a tractor train type of thing. Going over to his place for a visit always felt kind of like camp or some kind of off-roading adventure. I see this man wearing a motorcycle vest and having his hair color was peppered, salt and pepper gray with a ponytail, and he may have been a little wild and unpredictable, but very kind heart, very good-hearted man. His message for you tonight is he just wants to say hi. He wants to pop in and tell you he loves you and remind you of all those great childhood memories that you have, hoping that it would cultivate that spirit within you and have this influence you to gently infuse more humor into your life and to make sure that as you go through life, you enjoy it and you laugh a lot. I think I'm going to leave it at that. If this message connects for you, please reach out because, as always, I love to know. Thank you. Are you enjoying your spooky visit? Please support the podcast by liking, sharing, and subscribing. The ghosts may be talkative, but they are lousy at marketing, so every click helps. Tell your friends and please leave a kind review so that others may join us. The spirits and I thank you. Hello and welcome back to I Talk to Ghosts. I wanted to share with you a paranormal experience that happened to me during a ghost investigation. This happened April of 2023 when I was with the Paranormal Road Trippers as we were investigating the old courthouse inn in Powell River, British Columbia. I think it was during the first night that we were there. We were in a room that was known to have some pretty ghostly activity. And as we were talking in the room, myself and the other investigators on the team, all of a sudden I had this amazingly strong taste of tobacco in my mouth. It tasted like I had chewed on an entire cigarette. It was so distinct and overwhelming and undeniable, and it just flooded in. And it lasted for about 5 to 7 minutes, and then it just went away. It just left as abruptly as it started. And that room where that encounter happened to me was the room that I was going to be spending the night. Now, I had asked the spirits to please let me be, let me get my sleep. I do like to set office hours, and my sleep is very special and important to me. So I sat on the edge of the bed and said, Okay, spirits, thank you for allowing me to share this space with you. I would love to just be able to sleep tonight and be well rested for the next day. So anything you need to communicate to me, please let it wait till the morning. And I felt pretty comfortable and confident about that. I remember I even went to bed wearing a t-shirt that had a Ouija board across the front of it. However, in the middle of the night, I was woken up to a flood of that taste in my mouth again. And before I could even wake up fully and register what was going on, my mind said no. And the taste immediately went away. So then I woke up fully, realized what happened, and I was like, yeah, none of that tonight, please. And I went back to sleep, and that was it for the rest of the night. It was quiet. The tobacco thing didn't happen again, but I did smell cigarette or pipe smoke later on in a different location. And I do believe there was a gentleman spirit that enjoyed smoking while alive, and others had reported smelling tobacco on past occasions as well. So that is just one of the encounters that I had during that investigation. If you're curious and would like to check out the old courthouse investigation, I'll have a link to it in the show notes. And with that, dear listener, we've reached the end of this 100th episode of I Talk to Ghosts. I hope you've enjoyed the spirit work that I shared with you this evening, as well as those ghostly encounters that happened during paranormal investigations. Do you have a paranormal story that you'd like to share similar to these? I would love to hear it. In the meantime, wherever you wander off to, in this world or the next, just remember, come back and visit with me. Have a lovely evening and good night.